Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Kevin Rice. I'm in West Palm Beach. And today I'm going to talk about I'm the image maker. And by the way, so are you. And we're going to get a fuller description of this in the first place with you this afternoon on a Thursday afternoon in West Palm Beach. By the way, I'm going to be in West Palm Beach at my home here this Saturday at 1 o'clock going through A Course in Miracles group discussion on being visible or invisible. That is what I meant to say. So we're using a section from A Course in Miracles, which is very powerful. And by the way, even the section that we are discussing is on our website, the Academy of Spiritual Awakening.org, and the description here on Facebook Live for you to look as well. I'll be at Unity on the Bay, May 6th at 1 o'clock, Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock at Unity on the Bay in Miami for our monthly group discussion on A Course in Miracles. So I invite that you joining us for either events that we are doing that in West Palm Beach and Miami as well. I want to thank everybody for the contributions that you made for the bracelets for the Academy of Spiritual Awakening. And by the way, the bracelets will be here on May 15th. A lot of bracelets that we're going to distribute to the world, okay? Look, our only purpose here is to express the good, the holy, and the beautiful each and every day. And I'm here also for any counselings that you need to discuss with me here at my home in West Palm Beach, or your home in West Palm Beach, or Fort Lauderdale, or Miami. So I do a lot of counselings throughout the week, and I'm here to set you on the right path. So if you have any questions here, I've got my iPad here to answer any questions that you have that we are discussing here in West Palm Beach. Again, we're talking about the image maker. The image maker. What is the image maker? Well, you know what this means when you understand the modern science behind it, the processes of the mind that we go through each and every second of every hour of every day. Unless and until we understand the processes that the mind goes through, then we're going to be lost about this. And furthermore, A Course in Miracles, as well as The Way of Mastery, as well as the Urantia, and many other books really written about the processes of the mind that we go through. So let's just start right here with right now. Keep in mind that most people are conditioned when they navigate themselves through time and space. They believe that what they are reacting to is material reality. And what I am saying to you is this is just not true whatsoever. Our entire lives are being programmed by our five senses, our perceptions in this world. The larger question that we have for ourselves is this: how did these perceptions arise in our field of awareness? Okay, how did we get to where we are today? Now, modern science also shows us that the external world is really different than what we experience through our five senses in the world. Okay? So, German biochemist and an expert in the field of ecology said this, and there's a video by the way of this, and I'll put this in the Facebook Live after I'm done here. Statement of some scientists posing that, quote unquote, man is an image and everything experienced is temporary and deceptive. And this universe is a shadow. Seems to be proven by science in our day today. So let's look at the mind and how it progresses through our own brain, okay? From the same segment that I'll put on the comments below afterwards. At the instant of seeing, light clusters called photons travel from the object to the eyes and pass through eyelids, which they are refracted and focused on the retina on the back of the eye. Here, rays are turned into electrical impulses and then transmitted by neurons to the center of the vision on the back of the brain. The act of seeing actually takes place in the center of the brain, so that all images and all events and circumstances are actually taking place in the dark place in the back of our brain, a few cubic centimeters of it. When we say we see that all that we are really observing are the rays of light, okay, of the light electrical impulses in our brain. That is all that we are interacting with in that moment. So therefore, the brain is sealed to light. The interior is absolutely dark. It is not possible for the brain to be in contact with light whatsoever. Hello, Donna Brown. Good to see you, my holy sister. So, using that, let me just give you a little further explanation of this as well. So then all of the images that we are experiencing right now is nothing more than a production of what is happening in the back of our brains right now, in the center of our brain. And because of it, it's a darkened place. This is why A Course in Miracles says repeatedly, to the darkened ego's glass, you need but say to it, I will not look there, because I know that these images are not true. And so therefore, we're not going to give it any energy, any attention, any power whatsoever. Because all that we are really interacting with is nothing more than a reflection of the images that we are producing ourselves in our brains. Okay? So therefore, this is why we do not really have a directly interaction with reality. That all that we are interacting with are images in the world. That is it. Okay. So because of that, this is why we are an image maker here. We are the dreamer of the entire dream. So every dimension that we are experiencing right now is nothing more than the perceptions that our brain is holding or occupying in our moment right now. So if I see right now a reflection of death, despair, doom, and gloom, it is because my brain is holding those perceptions to be quote-unquote true. And therefore, we're going to see the reflection of it in time and space in the dimension that we are in right now. Hey, Tony, good to see you, my holy brother. Now, that is the modern science behind it. Here is the theoretical foundation of it from A Course in Miracles, as well as the Way of Mastery and the Urantia. Okay? That the processes here is really important for us to understand that what we really want in our experience is reality, not illusions. Let me say it further. So all of those experiences that we produce, as we are called images, always come from the perceptions that is based upon solely from the past and the future. That's it. That is our perceptions. It's a timeline of the past and the future. And because of it, it is itself an hallucination. A Course in Miracles tells us that the past is over, and with its passing, the drive for vengeance is uprooted, and disappears in that moment. You see this? The past is over. And Einstein reiterated this as well, that all that we are experiencing in this universe is an optical illusion. And A Course in Miracles goes even further by saying that illusions recognized must disappear. Illusions recognized must disappear. So all of these events and circumstances that bring us an experience of despair and disappointment and being unfulfilling in our experience is a result of the hallucinations that we are invested in that moment. Okay? So therefore, it is really, really important that you and I understand how powerful, how potent your thoughts that you are occupying your mind right now is integral in understanding that every thought that we think right now manifests itself in time and space on some level in this dimension. Okay? You say, Kevin, I don't like the experience that I'm having right now with this, my husband or my wife. I don't like the experience that I'm having with my boss or my church or whatever. My friends, you yourself are responsible with those circumstances, because we have to understand that what we are interacting with is not reality, but rather our interpretation of reality, our own perceptions that our own brain is producing because of our desires, our wants, and so forth in time and space. You get this? I hope you do. Hey, Tony Avalos, I love you so much. I miss you. In Coconut Grove there, we spent some time together there. And I know that you're probably elsewhere, but that's okay. So am I. And we are here. And I'll tell you what, as well, all of these birds around me are just going chirping and singing and so forth, and I'm going to just let them to do that. Perhaps they are trying to communicate to me as well that my purpose, my intention, my function in this world is also to sing. To sing to you the song of truth, of light, of joy, of peace, of fulfillment, and of bliss. That is the reason I am here right now, is to express the good, the holy, and the beautiful. So, you say, Kevin, how did we get to ourselves, to a place in ourselves, where all that we are experiencing are the images that my mind, my brain, is producing in time and space? And A Course in Miracles gives us the theoretical foundation for it. And all of it was this. Let's just start with the fact that we are one right now. We are one right now. Right now, you and I are exchanging molecules between each other. And everything that we are experiencing in time and space is nothing more than a reflection of what's happening internally. That the world is nothing more than an outward picture of an inward condition. Okay? We understand the unity, the unified totality of ourself in this world when we suspend judgment, when we stop listening to the thinking of our ego, the perceptions that is arising because of it. Then we understand that what is really immaterial is the world of perception, which I have mentioned already using modern science. All of the images that we see in the background is nothing more than the illusory nature of the thoughts that we are feeding it into it in that moment. Okay? So how do we change our world? By changing our minds about the world. By changing our perceptions from a foundation of fear and guilt and shame to a foundation instead of love, of unity, and of innocence and compassion. When we do that, then we can have an experience in this time and space continuum that reflects heaven instead of hell. You got that? So Tony says here, let me just go here to the iPad here. So, can we hold a belief? So we can hold a thought to have an illusion of love, health, prosperity, wellness, and well-being. Okay, let's keep in mind here that there are two kinds of thinking here. Okay? One is the egoic thinking, which is a reflection of fear. Then our true thoughts. True thoughts come in alignment with the thought of God. So, the thought of God is a thought of love, a thought of joy, of eternity, the eternal nature of our being, okay? And because of that, we can begin, Tony, to realign our being from affixing ourselves to that tiny voice of mad ideas and fear that's producing in our brain, or we can come out of that, dislodge ourselves from it, and to accept instead our own reality instead. Here's another way of saying this. As we let go of the perceptions that our own egoic identity is producing and align instead with the thoughts of God, the will of God, then we can have an experience of health, prosperity, and love in our experience by placing our interest and our power and energy instead on the kingdom within, and letting go of the ancillary forms and images and perceptions and interpretations and meanings that the ego has brought us heretofore. We can change our minds in that moment. So, unity then is a fact. There is no separate entities here. There is no Tony there and Kevin here. There is a one being, one self, that is manifesting itself temporarily in time and space, playing and dancing with the world of the temporal. Okay? That is not who we are. It is not compatible with who we are. And we know this. We know this as we begin to disengage ourselves from the world of the temporal and to instead aligning our minds to the eternal nature of who we really are as the light of God, as the son and the daughter of the living God. That's it. That is salvation. That is the atonement. That is what we call as well the correction. So let me see if we have any questions here from Tony. Kevin, do we hold them in our brain or in our minds? The mind produces those perceptions, and it is fed into the brain. The brain itself is not who you are, it's not who I am either. It's merely a device that we have chosen to communicate. That's it. Therefore, it is neutral. It has no charge whatsoever. If we use that brain, that device, to bring us an experience of suffering and despair and shame and guilt and attack, it is because our perceptions chose to desire it, to want it. So if our minds, using the perceptions we use through the brain, it can bring an experience instead of love and light and bliss when we experience only loving thoughts. I have repeatedly said this before to my students here in West Palm Beach and Miami. Only loving thoughts. Only loving thoughts. Only loving thoughts is what we want to occupy our minds. When we do that, then we have an alignment with our source. We are at one with God. The Father and I are one in that moment. When instead, however, we begin to occupy thoughts of fear and guilt and shame and attack and condemnation, that is the world that we will experience. This is how powerful and potent the mind is. So the moment then, you say again, I want to restate, how the hell did we get here? Our mind, not in alignment with the mind of God, said, I think I'll experience a dimension in which I see myself as separate from me. A dimension in which I see myself from our source, the Father, the Mother, whatever you want to call it. And in that moment, and you'll see this in Genesis as Adam fell into a deep sleep, the moment he engaged or played or danced with a thought of a separate entity, boom, she or he went into a deep sleep. And so did you, and so did I. And so the journey back to home, to the kingdom, is to recognize that we took that journey away from our reality and played and danced in the tools and the dimension of fear and the darkness, okay? But because of our own choosing, through our mind, we can see the light of God instead. We can. And because of this, your experience in time and space will change dramatically because of it. You know, A Course in Miracles says repeatedly that all change must occur in the level of mind, not in the level of behavior. Why? Why? It's true because the only place in your being that choice can have an opportunity is within your mind. That is it. That is why we live only listening to one of two voices, love or fear. We therefore have only two choices because of it, love or fear. This world is nothing more than you and I collectively and personally giving our attention and our power and energy to the world of fear. And therefore we have an experience of fear in this world. But we can choose again each and every day by saying, hey, number one, that what we are experiencing right now is nothing more than a product of what we are occupying our minds with. That's it. So therefore, we take 100% responsibility for that choice of fear, and therefore we have free will to choose again. And because we have chosen separation instead of the reality of unity, instead of using fear instead of love, and attack and punishment instead of forgiveness and release, this is what we experience as a result of it. Okay? I hope that you're getting this, folks. Let's see if we have any other questions here. So, when we go then into the separation then, what do we experience as a result of it? We experiencing three principal things in our minds because of that first step of the separation. The first one is fear. We're afraid. And we're afraid not because fear was instilled into our minds. No. because we chose to believe in the illusion of the separation. Okay? And because of that, fear arises in the vacuum. Why? Because we think we're alone, and we're not. We're not alone. That we have a source, a cause, and that we're the effect. Okay? And that everything in this world, our brothers and our sisters, are not separate from us. They are us. We are one with that. Okay? So that is where fear arises. Secondly, the reason why it arises too is because you believe in time and space because of it. You think that there's a future and a past. And so therefore your mind goes as a projectile into the future or regresses into the past and then experiences suffering because of that. And because of the fear, because of your fixation to time and space, what happens then also? The second pillar of the ego, guilt, arises into your mind. Oh my God, Kevin, I think I've done something wrong. Only in dreams, not in reality. So guilt then is the glue that brings time and space together. That's the glue that keeps it together. To whatever extent that you can let go of the guilt, you can let go of the illusions that is producing it in the first place. So, because of the separation, you experience fear because you think that you're alone, that you're guilty because you think that you did something wrong, which you didn't, only in dreams. And then thirdly, you perpetuate a sense of shame or sin. That there's sin within you, that there's sin within your brother or your sister. Those three things keeps the ego intact. That's it. When we uproot those three things, fear, guilt, and sin, then we begin to understand our being, our soul, our mind. So let me just restate all of this here, okay? So your mind, your soul, okay, your being, using the device of your mind, placed within it perceptions which was not in alignment with God, not in alignment with your true natural state. Then in that moment, you and I went into a deep sleep, as Adam did, as the prodigal son did too. And then all that we operated with in that moment and dance and play with is the tools of fear, guilt, and sin because of it. All of those three things is not even true at all. You think you got problems now? You know how that is immediately resolved? By recognizing that what you are interacting with and what you are trafficking with is nothing more than an hallucination. Again, A Course in Miracles says, illusions recognized must disappear. That's it. That is how your problems begin to disappear, because you see the nothingness of it. So because we are experiencing fear, guilt, and shame, because of those three pillars of the ego, which is not even true, what happens as a result of those three things? And that's real simple. You then have a resistance of everything that you are producing in this dimension. In other words, you see yourself on a battlefield against the world. And therefore, you experience yourself as a victim of this world, which is also an illusion. You also experience the seriousness of the dream that you are, or the images that your mind is producing in that moment. Okay? And then thirdly, you focus on the specifics of what is happening in time and space. Okay? So in other words, your world is a world of specifics, form, and image. All of those things that our brain is producing in that moment. Okay, those three things, the seriousness of it, okay, the specifics of it, the resistance you have to it, as well as the three pillar of the ego, fear, okay, as well as guilt and sin. All of that is nothing more than you wanting to experience something more than your reality. You get this, folks? Wow. There's Janet Wiseman. Hey, Janet, good to see you. I'm going to add you, Janet, to see if add your contribution, your content and your perceptions here to this as well, to see if this even works in the first place. Okay, so there we are, folks. It's really easy here. Your thought in your mind produced a thought of the separation. Then you dreamed about it. And then that dream, you experienced fear because of it, became lonely because of it, felt guilty because of it, and then felt sinful because of it. And therefore, you brought a level of seriousness as well as dwelling entirely on the specifics and the form that you and I are experiencing. And there she is, Janet. How are you doing, Janet? You just went away there. Maybe you can come back again. Let's see. I'll add her again. Look, Janet is one of the teachers of A Course in Miracles that was part of this endeavor that we are doing in South Florida, really cooperatively working with all of the teachers of A Course in Miracles. Now, I gave you the journey. Oh, you're at war. You're at work, Janet. Sorry about that. It says, bring them on camera. Bring Janet Keller Wiseman on camera, and I try to do that. So I probably won't do that in the future. Doesn't really matter because all of this is happening within a dream state, okay? And therefore has no level of seriousness to it, no level of specifics to it either, okay? It has no guilt, no shame, or fear surrounding it either, okay? I hope that you get this. Okay, so then, how do we get to a place in our experience that brings us to a place of joy, of love? And it's really easy here. It's called realignment, okay? We change our alignment with that hallucination that our brain is producing in a sealed room in our brain, okay? And then we move away from the perceptions that we are engaging with in our brain. And then we step aside. And we begin to experience life in its totality and its entirety outside of the box of the ego. That's it. We have an experience instead of perfect vision. How do we experience perfect vision? Simply by removing the first step that you and I have stepped into, the crap, the separation. How do we get rid of that first step into the descent toward hell? By simply removing the gap that our minds produce that gives an image of me being separate from you and you being separate from me. You got this, folks? That's it. When I remove the gap between me and you, then judgment, therefore, is suspended. There's nothing to judge against anymore. There's no specifics or the past or the future to use as a reliable instrument to judge you or to judge myself. All of that is happening in dream states, and therefore it is not true at all. So in that alignment from fear to love, from death to life, from mortality to eternality, then we understand what love is. We didn't have to search for love, right? All that we had to do was remove the blocks, the perceptions, the images that our brain is producing in that moment. When we let go of the blocks, then, oh my God, then we know what love is. That love is a state of being. It is not a relationship. It doesn't happen in time and space. That love, experienced as well as expressed it, extended rather, that occurs when we are outside of the box of the ego that we created in the first place. And because of those three pillars of the ego is uprooted, the fear, the guilt, and the shame is uprooted immediately, and then we have what is experienced instead. And that is love, innocence, and laughter, and compassion, by the way. So we see the reality of the unity, of the totality of who we are, the kingdom. Some people refer to it as that. And because of it, we are innocent. We're innocent because we are not using anymore the past and the future to measure ourselves or other people against. Okay? We are living and moving and abiding only in the eternal timeless now. What is happening right now. Okay? That's it. And therefore, I'm innocent from the taint of the past and the future. I am without judgment of my brothers and sisters, and because of that, my brothers and sisters and myself are completely neutral and therefore innocent because of it. Okay? Secondly, we will have a level of compassion to everything that we are experiencing in time and space. Yes, if we experience in time and space those aspects of our minds that is sleeping, and operating and trafficking in that darkened room of the brain that is fueled to true light, then we can't judge it. We can't evaluate it. We can only observe what we are experiencing in that moment. And therefore, the whole total concoction of the ego that we are seeing in time and space, therefore, has to be we should have a response to it instead, not of seriousness or alarm anymore, but rather laughter. Laughter. We begin to laugh at what is not true. Okay? I hope that you get this, folks. And because I want to say one more thing as well. Because we are no longer invested anymore in the specifics or form or the image that our brain is producing, all that we are really giving our attention and energy and power to is the essence of our being, our soul, our spirit, our mind. When we give that to the essence, the substance, the state of love, that we really are here for, and to express and extend to the world that is in desperate need of it, then our world begins to change quite easily. Quite easily. Whew. So let's just take a deep breath here together, okay? You and me. Wow. Let's take another deep breath here. Exhaling the good, the holy, and the beautiful only. So therefore, we have circled around to the truth of what is really happening in this world. We move from fear to love. We move from guilt to innocence. We move from shame and sin to compassion and sympathy. We move away from resistance, the war, the battlefield. to unity. And from the seriousness and the alarm that the world brings to this dimension, to simply a laughter. A jovial way of looking at the world. Because in that moment, you know that the world is harmless. It's neutral. You're not a victim of the world that you see anymore. That you are yourself. You are that one that is producing the images in the first place. A Course in Miracles refers to it as saying that you and I collectively in our one mind played and danced with fear and the separation. It says specifically, into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny, mad idea in which the Son of God, you and me, forgot to laugh about the whole thing. And therefore we brought a level of seriousness to it. So how do we remove ourselves from it? It's real simple. Take that level of resistance that you have right now to an event, that person, that circumstance that you're experiencing in time and space. Bring it from a level 100% of resistance to 0 point. The level of seriousness that you think is 100% there, to be brought down to 0 point. To see the nothingness from what you are experiencing. That's it. I'm not saying that you're something, your being is going to be uprooted from this dimension. I'm not going to say that. Okay, you're not mortal. You're not going to be removed from this dimension. But you will understand who you are. Okay? You're not an ego trapped within inside of a body anymore. You're no longer just a wave assaulting another wave on the ocean anymore, but that you are the depth of the ocean of love itself. You are that. You are. A Course in Miracles, and I'm going to stop it, this lesson with you right now by reminding you and myself of that statement from A Course in Miracles, where it says this: I have done this thing, and it is this that I will undo. I have done this thing. I take responsibility for the images that my brain is producing in time and space. I now understand the processes of our mind scientifically that is occurring this in time and space. I understand it. I did this. I produced this. I have done this thing through my perceptions, my chosen identity, love or fear. But I can choose again. I can undo what I have done merely by changing my mind about the world that I see. And in that moment, the world is no longer an enemy to you, but a friend. The universe is no longer at war with you. You are at one with it. And because you see the innocence and the compassion and the love and the bliss that you're experiencing because of it, there's nothing in this world that you want to do except for expressing love each and every day. Only loving thoughts. Only loving thoughts. Only loving thoughts. Now, I'm going to say one more thing here. Saturday, 1 o'clock here in West Palm Beach, we're going through A Course in Miracles together. And then March or May, I think it's 6th, at Unity on the Bay in Miami, as we go through the monthly A Course in Miracles group discussion, which we do every month in Miami. And of course, I have counseling here for you as well. If you need some counseling, folks, I'm here to set you on the right path each and every time. with every counselings I do in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, or West Palm Beach. I'm here holding your hand through this process, okay? And thank you again for all the offerings and the donations to the Academy of Spiritual Awakening. It is extremely appreciated. And if no one has told you today that they love you, allow me to be the first. I love you so freaking much. And remember, only loving